Nobody was ever supposed to say this out loud. For years, WNBA owners avoided real numbers in public. They used safe phrases: growth, culture, momentum, progress. Comfortable words. Words designed so nobody panics. But something changed. And once it changed, pretending was no longer an option. It didn't start with a press conference. It didn't start on TV. It started in a private room. Lights dimmed, chairs pulled close, and screens showing raw, unforgiving data, not highlight reels. Viewership curves, revenue charts, corporate partner projections. No spin, no marketing filter, just the truth. That's when the silence hit the room. Because one owner noticed a pattern that did not make sense. The league was louder than it had ever been, trending everywhere, going viral daily. But money wasn't moving the same way. Social media buzz? Massive. Actual viewership? Not matching the noise. So that owner did something bold. He isolated a single variable, Caitlyn Clark, and the charts reacted instantly. Not slowly, not gradually, violently. At first, he thought it was a glitch, a random spike that would flatten out. But it didn't. Every appearance, every highlight, every interview, every time her name was mentioned, the numbers exploded in ways no marketing department could engineer. So he asked the question nobody wanted to answer. What happens if we remove everything except her? The answer was terrifying, because when they stripped the model down, the entire system collapsed. The data didn't just suggest it. It screamed it. Caitlyn Clark wasn't part of the growth. She was the growth. A few weeks later came the NBA on NBC moment. At first, it looked simple. A fun crossover, a harmless segment, a cute symbolic bridge between leagues. No pressure, no stakes, no expectations. But behind the scenes, the owners already knew exactly what was coming, because the numbers had already told the story.
Caitlyn Clark, her NBC, the numbers for that game have finally been released. The executives over there already speaking very highly of her. Is there a potential position in the future? Are they going to be expanding her role? More appearances to come? Sunday night basketball, milestone for NBA on NBC Sports. Lakers-Knicks, 4.5 million viewers on NBC plus Telemundo, 5 million peak audience. Most watched regular season Sunday night NBA game since 2002, excludes Christmas Day. Sunday night NBA games. Now, a Sunday night NBA, is that ABC included, or the ABC games Saturday night games from back in the day?
Millions watched. Not WNBA fan. Not basketball diehards. Regular people. Inside NBC Sports. Producers saw something they hadn't seen in years. Viewer retention didn't drop. It increased. People stayed through the segment. They rewound clips. They shared them outside sports circles. That night did more than generate buzz. It generated leverage. The next morning, the owner saw updated projections, and that's when he stopped protecting feelings. According to multiple insiders, he said it plainly. This isn't incremental. It's exponential. Then he dropped the number 50 times. 50 times the projected viewership impact. 50 times the revenue acceleration. 50 times the partner interest compared to baseline expectations.
Spotlight that comes with an NBA national broadcast. So he loved every bit of what Caitlyn Clark did and what she brought to the broadcast. Now, this is where he started talking a little bit about having Caitlyn Clark back more than that March 29th announcement. So it says NBC Sports is planning to bring Clark back later this season. Cordella confirmed that she is scheduled to appear as an analyst for the Knicks versus Thunder on March 29th. As we know, he also added that he hopes to see more of Clark moving forward, signaling that the door is open for additional appearances. While no expanded role has been formally announced, the comment suggested genuine interest rather than casual praise. So, hey man, I don't know. We might see Caitlyn working that booth. That'd be dope though, man. That'd be dope. Of course, with everything going on with the WNBA, we don't even know if we're going to have a season, man. Nonsensical.
50 times. That number was never supposed to escape that room, but it did. And once it leaked, everything began to fall apart. Because if one player can multiply an entire league's value by 50, it exposes a truth nobody wanted to face. The league wasn't the engine. She was. Word spread fast. Media insiders whispered it behind closed doors. Advertisers didn't whisper, they moved. Instantly. Suddenly, every call, every meeting, every pitch shifted from league-wide strategy to one focus. How do we position ourselves around her? And when that shift happened, jealousy followed. Not dramatic, not public. Professional jealousy. Other leagues were watching too. They saw the NBC numbers. They saw the surge in broadcast traffic. They saw audiences migrating toward her, not the sport, her. And in the business of sports, attention is currency. Once you control attention, you control everything. That's when the tension started boiling. Because for decades, the unspoken rule ran the league. No single player becomes bigger than the system. The system must always remain in control. Caitlyn Clark broke that rule without even trying. No demands, no tantrums, no ultimatums. She just showed up, played basketball, and the numbers took care of the rest. Her performance forced the owners into a corner, and one of them finally cracked. He didn't go public with frustration, he went public with math. He showed what viewership looked like before her. Flat, predictable, safe, a straight line moving nowhere. Then he showed the after. Spikes so violent they look like errors. Revenue curves bending upward as if someone physically grabbed them and pulled. That's when he said the sentence that changed the entire season.
WNBA presented to the players. This is the most recent proposal, and I guess they also brought this to the meeting on Monday. It's so funny on all of these documents in the corner, it says confidential, but they are currently circulating all around Twitter. So I want to go over some of these bullet points with you guys. The first slide, it said WNBA CBA proposal, goals for a win-win CBA. Number one, substantially increase player salaries to reflect recent future business growth. That number one bullet point is something that Adam Silver has said many, many of times when he is asked about the WNBA CBA. This is, again, it seems to be why the two sides are on different sides. It seems like the WNBA wants to raise the salary enough to where they don't have to give a percentage of this gross revenue that the players want. And that's where the players are feeling like there's such a disconnect because it seems like they would prefer the revenue split over the salaries just increasing. But again, you can see here, substantially increased player salaries, which they have, by the way. They've increased the salaries like 6 times the amount of what they used to be. Number two, promote business health and profitability. And that has been such a big thing in all of these. And a lot of fans have chimed in like the WNBA has never been profitable. And the WNBA is still young, you guys. It is going into its 30th season. And when we did the comparison of WNBA salaries in their 30th season, if they take this deal, and NBA salaries in their 30th season, and obviously we did the math for inflation, all those things, the WNBA players will actually be making more than NBA players were in their 30th season. So that's why I just don't think this deal is such a bad deal like all of the players seem to think it is, but the WNBA is still focused on good business health and profitability. Number three, maintain incentives for team and league investments. Now,
The WNBA just presented its newest CBA proposal to the players, the same one they reportedly walked into Monday's meeting with. And the funniest part? Every single page is stamped confidential. Yet somehow the entire thing is floating all over Twitter right now. So let's break down the major points they're offering. The first slide is titled, WNBA CBA Proposal, Goals for a Win-Win Deal. Goal number one, substantially increase player salaries to match current and future business growth. Adam Silver has repeated this line dozens of times, and this is exactly where the conflict begins. It looks like the league is trying to raise salaries high enough so they don't have to give players the revenue split they're asking for. And that's why so many players feel disconnected from the offer. They'd rather secure a percentage of gross revenue than just see salaries go up. But give the league some credit. Salaries have already increased 6 times what they used to be. That's real movement. Goal number two, promote business health and profitability. This is a huge sticking point. Fans online love to say, the WNBA has never been profitable. But people forget, the league is still young. It's entering its 30th season. And here's the crazy part. When we compare WNBA salaries in their 30th season, after adjusting for inflation, to NBA salaries in their 30th season, WNBA players would actually make more under this deal. That's why it's hard to call this a bad deal, no matter how loud some players claim it is. The league is clearly focused on long-term stability, responsible spending, and actually turning a profit.
So, obviously Caitlyn Clark's voice the biggest voice that can speak on this because she's been the catalyst for the WNBA being in position for a transformative CBA, a change in salaries, the way that they're headed. So it's good to hear that she's confident. She's always expressed so much love around the league and what it can become and what it was and all of those things. But nonetheless, it's still got to be a deal that's done. So you can get to the WNBA draft later after the free agency and after the expansion drafts. But hopefully, that's a good sign for WNBA fans that the league's biggest star is saying she's confident a CBA will get done. Then there were some other topics hit up on the broadcast as well, including her wanting to play at Madison Square Garden. That is where she was broadcasting from, the Knicks and the Lakers. It is a great arena. I've spent a lot of time in the Garden.
Lakers and the Knicks taking center stage here for the 302nd overall meeting. And for the first time ever, we've got basketball night in America, the first Sunday in February. And we're joined by our special correspondent. Welcome to the team, Caitlyn Clark. Yes.
Welcome. MSG for a Knicks game, so it's pretty cool.
I know, it's our first Knicks game, first time feeling the atmosphere. We got to get you to play on this court one day.
We have to talk to Adam about that.
Can we make it mellow? Honestly, if there's someone
Even if it's a preseason game, we got to get it done. I don't think the Liberty will want to move a game over here, but we'll play anybody. It'll be fun.
Yeah. How could you describe maybe the atmosphere your first time in it?
Well, I think as a player, this is kind of when you feel the atmosphere the most is when you're out on the court warming up. So, there's just a different type of buzz. And obviously when LeBron comes to town, it's probably really different. But,
They said, "We underestimated her impact." But underestimated is the polite version. The real message was brutal. They had no idea who was actually carrying them. And the moment that statement hit the internet, everything detonated. Fans went to war in the comments. Debates, reactions, chaos everywhere. Other leagues? Completely silent. And silence only means one thing. They're watching closely, because what they saw was terrifying. Caitlyn Clark didn't just bring people to the WNBA. She brought people to basketball broadcasts, period. NBC saw a brand new audience. Sponsors saw demographics they had never reached. The pie didn't just grow, it shifted. And that shift created enemies. You could feel it in the media tone. The sudden team-first messaging. The attempts to remind everyone that growth is collective. All subtle, all strategic, all aimed at pulling attention away from one person. But the owner had opened the box. And once real numbers go public, you can't bury them again. That's when jealousy quietly morphed into panic. Because if one player can generate this much value, she doesn't need the league as much as the league needs her. And power shifts instantly when everyone finally sees the truth. The owner didn't walk it back. He didn't soften it. He didn't clarify. He doubled down.
More iconic figure in basketball in the women's game right now, or the game in general. So we said, let's have a bigger conversation. And it's just so crazy that it feels like every other sport will just come out and say what it is besides the WNBA. The NBA is not scared to acknowledge that there's no more iconic figure in basketball. Not just the women's game, but possibly the game in general than Caitlyn Clark. But we would not hear that in the WNBA space. We wouldn't hear that from WNBA media. But the NBA media and the NBA and the league itself is not scared to say it. We've seen it when Caitlyn does golf events. It just seems like every league but her own is not scared to say the truth. But I do think it's really cool.